Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. It is Q&A Tuesday. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Every week I take some of the questions that have been asked by viewer comments through emails or from Instagram, and I roll it all into an episode to bring you guys the #1 question and answer show about medical coding, airing on Tuesday. So if you'd like to submit your question for a future episode, comment below or on any of my videos, and I will add it to a future show. So, thank you to everybody who submitted their question. Let us begin. All right, first question. Hello, when practicing for the CPC exam, there are so many codes you have to choose from. How do you get the right code in a timely manner? All right, so disclaimer first. I don't have a CPC, and I've never taken the CPC exam. I am certified with the American Health Information Management Association. I currently hold the Certified Coding Specialist physician-based. All right, so but from what I do know about the CPC exam, and any exam really, is that you're going to do process of elimination when you have like multiple choice. And the CPC exam is all multiple choice. So you're going to look at all the options that you have, and then you're going to eliminate at least 2 of them because you know that there's going to be 2 that is just absolutely not it. And then you're going to look at the remaining 2 and then just go from there and look up the codes appropriately. This is why I tell you guys it's very important for you to familiarize yourself with the book. You know, if you see a 10,000 series code, that's going to be on the skin. A 20,000 series code is going to be musculoskeletal, and so on and so forth. When you know that, that's going to help you, because then you're going to have like, okay, I know they're saying it's this section, or they're saying it's this section. When you're looking at the codes, you don't necessarily have to memorize the codes, but at least know the sections that the code ranges start at, right? And so that way you can look very quickly and say, okay, well, I know process of elimination is not going to be this one, or this one looks a little odd, but because I have been studying and I have been reviewing the book, I know that this is probably the one I want to go with. So study hard, guys. Get familiar with the book. Even if you're looking at the book, flipping through the pages just to get yourself familiar with the book. Don't neglect the appendixes either. I'm just going to throw that out there, because the appendixes have a lot of really good information in them. I'm just saying. Next question. Is it better to get or skip the certificate and go straight for the associate degree? The RHIT. Here's the thing, guys. You have to understand what the RHIT is. A lot of people think, well, in order to make really good money, you have to have a degree. This is not true in the health information field. In medical coding, you can get through with just a certification and have a very successful, lucrative career. You don't necessarily need a degree. I'm just going to throw that out there. Second of all, if you are wanting to get the associate's degree, there's going to be a change coming for the RHIT. I will discuss that tomorrow on Wednesday's episode. You need to understand that with the RHIT, you're going to be in a sort of managerial type position, or you are going to be in a lead coder or an auditor type position, because that is what the RHITs are designed to do. They're designed to be leaders on a supervisory type level. So if that's not what you want to do, then you want to go with the certification. And there is no skipping the certification. Employers do want certifications, even for degree holders. Sometimes you'll see it even in the job postings, that when they have their degree, having a additional credential, some medical coding certification is preferred when you have a degree, depending on what you're going to do, because the degree designations aren't really designed, except for the RHIT, to be hands-on coding. All right, the RHIT, yes. The RHIA, which is a bachelor's degree, the Registered Health Information Administrator, no, because they are designed to be the leaders of organizations. So that is why they have to eventually have the credential if they're going to be doing anything with coding, or if the employer really requests it. So you can go either path when it comes to getting a degree or getting a certification, but really understand what the degree designation is for. And again, I will be talking about that tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right, next question. Hi, is it possible for you to start a refresher class on medical billing and coding to sit for the exam? I will pay for it. That is very thoughtful, very sweet. Here's the thing, guys. When it comes to setting up a class and setting up like something that where you're doing that and you're doing it for refreshers, for just to get people to get familiar with the field again, it takes a lot. And not that I'm not already doing a lot, because I work a full-time job. I work 40 hours a week. I tutor. I come home and I do YouTube and Patreon. Patreon, if you don't know, is a channel a lot like YouTube, but they pay to sponsor the creator, and there are no commercials. Okay, so just put that out there. And on Patreon, I do lots of coding exercises. That is where I do puzzles, word puzzles for medical terminology, and I do lots of coding exercises, inpatient and outpatient, and diagnosis coding as well. So that is something that I can offer right now, tutoring or Patreon. But as far as doing a refresher class, I cannot. My schedule is not allowing me to do very much other than what I've got on my plate. And not only that, I am in school. So that is another thing too that is just on my plate. But yes, that's all I can offer. My rates for tutoring are in the description box below, very reasonable. And then I do have my Patreon link if you're interested in that in the description box as well. And the minimum pledge right now is $5. So you can cancel at any time, but it's $5 a month, so minimum. And the higher you go, there's going to be more benefits to higher levels. And some levels include tutoring time as well. So if you're interested, check it out. Next question. Do coders use pivot tables in Excel often? So pivot table is a part of Excel, Microsoft Excel. So it depends on what they're doing. Does it help to have knowledge in Excel? Yes. Do you have to be advanced in using Excel? No. You just need to know the basics. Pivot table is a little advanced depending on what you're doing. But I mean, it doesn't hurt to have that knowledge. And there's lots of tutoring or demonstration videos on YouTube if you're interested in learning about pivot tables. Next question. Can you help me with coding? And then another person said, hi, Bleu, can you give me tips to understand medical coder? When I get basic questions like this, guys, I know nothing about what you're trying to ask me. Are you asking me about diagnosis coding, procedure coding, inpatient or outpatient? Are you asking me about evaluation and management? Are you asking me about medical terminology or same-day surgeries? What are you asking me about? When you ask questions, please be very specific. That's all I'm asking, because I don't know. And then to have a discourse back and forth, it takes a lot of time. So I'm willing to give answers right away and quickly, but I need to know specifically what is it that you are confused on, okay? This was twice in the same week, so I don't know what's going on and what these people mean. But again, if you have a specific question, let me know. Next question. Bleu, as far as CEUs are concerned, I know that we need them after the certification in order to keep it up every year. Now, why do I see continuing education units collecting in my AHIMA account when I'm doing their online courses? Not even close to getting a certification yet, LOL. It seems like after finishing each course, you get some kind of CEU credit, good until the course expires. I'll probably call them on that one, but I thought I'd ask. Thanks. So when you do any kind of continuing education units through the American Health Information Management Association website, when you sign up to be a member and you are doing their online courses, when you complete them, every online course they have offers continuing education units. So because of this, when you complete it, it will automatically upload to your bank on your account. So it'll say that, oh, you've completed this. The system knows, but it doesn't know. And it doesn't understand yet that you're not certified yet. So it's just going to collect in there and basically say that you've earned this many continuing education units because you finished this other course. Now, in order for continuing education units to count, you have to earn them after you get your certification. So unfortunately, right now, these are not going to count towards your certification. After you earn your certification, that's when the clock starts ticking, and that's when you start earning. You have to earn after that time. So just keep that in mind. Next question. I have 2 years in as a medical records clerk and an associate's degree in healthcare information and technology. Now I'm trying to get my CPC certification doing self-study. Can you guide me which fast track courses I can do to brush up on my knowledge, because I did my AS in 2014. So here's the thing. I never recommend fast track courses, and I will never recommend fast track courses, because I think that if you are learning medical coding and it's been since 2014, times have changed. The implementation of ICD-10 CM and ICD-10 PCS kicked in October of 2015. So if you haven't been coding as long, you need to start over again. You may have learned some of it in 2014, but certainly it's going to be that you're going to need to go through the program all over again. There's no way you can fast track that unless you are doing a self-study, and you see my video about doing a self-study program, and that's about it, because I don't recommend anything fast. Next question. What is your current coding specialty, or which departments do you currently code for? I code for orthopedics and podiatry, but I have coded almost every single clinic in the hospital. But that's just what I'm assigned to right now. I really love orthopedics and podiatry because I love injuries. Injuries to me is fun. Next question. Do you have any advice for coders switching from one specialty to another? I'm going to be addressing this one in another video, so I'm not going to talk about this one right now. The next one is, I think you said in one of your videos that you were a coding educator at one point. What was that experience like for you, and do you think you'll ever go back to being an educator? So I don't know if you've only watched one of those videos that I have, but I talk about it all the time. I'm an educator. There's no, I started and I don't do it anymore. I constantly do it. I do it for my providers. I do it for other medical coders. I do it for medical coding students. I am an educator. That's what I do. I love being an educator. There's nothing better to me than watching somebody have that aha moment and being a part of that and explaining something that I truly love to do. That is what makes me happy. And it's part of my passion for the field, is because there's a lot of different ways of teaching. And one of the things that I've always loved to do is teach. Now, I will probably ratchet this up in the future, meaning that I will do it on a more consistent basis, other than just being a medical coder. I don't know. There's a lot of things that's going on. There's a lot of moving pieces right now. So with that in mind, I will always be a coder. I will always be a coding educator. I will always do those things. And like I said, I enjoy the challenge of some students, and I enjoy watching their joy, and when they're frustrated, I like when I see the turnaround, now I get it. That is what I love to do. Next question. Is there a clinical documentation improvement department where you work? If so, what sort of relationship do your coders have with the CDI specialist and the CDI department as a whole? We currently do not have a CDI department. We currently do not have anybody in that function. When it comes to CDI, not all facilities have this just yet. You have to keep in mind, CDI is relatively new. It has been around in its own way for many years, but as far as like being concentrated, it hasn't been around quite as long. So it is still a new thing, and there are still some facilities that are just reliant upon their coder to do the CDI, sort of, and help the provider. But when it comes to CDI requires a little bit of advanced knowledge when it comes to what you're looking at, and clinical knowledge, because that's where you're going to be able to spot those missing elements, which is why nurses typically make good CDIs. However, this is not always the case. There's lots of really good medical coders who make excellent CDIs, and they're able to spot the holes because their training has helped them. I mean, when you're in this field, when you're in medical coding, you learn things, and it's just a byproduct of being a medical coder. And as time goes on, the more you have exposure to different types of providers, some providers are going to be more advanced than others. Obviously, you're going to be working with some 20, 30-year veterans versus students that are right out of med school. So I have worked with almost every single type of provider on the spectrum. I mean, I've worked with residents, and I've worked with providers that are, you know, on their way out the door and about to retire, because that's just how my career has been. I've been a medical coder for over 10 years. So when you have that much experience, and when you have as many different types of clinical experience as I have, right? Because I worked in almost every single clinic a hospital can offer, except for interventional radiology. It's the only one I haven't done. But when you work in this type of environment, it's going to be a good boot camp to be able to train you on to find things that are not there, and to find the holes, and to know what details a provider is missing. So that is what CDIs tend to do. I mean, to put it in layman's terms, is they're looking for the holes. And it is their job to educate the provider why it is important for them to fill in those holes so that the coder can select the most specific diagnosis code or the most specific procedure code. Because when you're looking at these things, you know, there's a huge difference between a patient who is a diabetic and a patient who is a diabetic and has peripheral vascular disease. You know, that's going to change the codes a little bit. So, you know, that's where a lot of those CDIs come into play. And again, it really depends on, you know, what the facilities think of hiring a CDI. I think it is beneficial, particularly if the CDI is extremely sharp and, you know, is willing to get in there in the trenches and talk with the coders, not just the providers, but talk with the coders as well. Because to be an excellent CDI, you have to be able to communicate with everybody. You have to be able to educate everybody. And there's going to be times when a CDI is going to have to listen to what the coder has to say, because they can't always see it, especially if they've never been in a position as a medical coder before. So if a medical coder is trying to explain something, you know, the CDI should really listen in and try to figure out what's going on, so that way it'll make sense to them as well, so they can pass that information on to the provider if it's an issue that is constantly coming up. So that is just something to think about. I mean, when it comes to working with your coworkers and other coders and things like that, you always have to be open, you know. I am an open person, especially when it comes to coding. I will put any feelings I have about anybody individually aside for the greater good, for the coding part. This is not always the case, and you may find this in your career, you may find this in your workplace, but it all depends on, you know, how you're willing to look at things. And if you're being audited and things like that, or if a CDI is trying to explain something to you, you have to be willing to listen as well. Just like you would want them to listen to you, you have to be willing to listen to them. So that's just my advice anyway. Next question. Hi, Blue. In terms of productivity, how many charts do medical coding groups expect you to code and bill out each day? The practice where I work is expecting me to code at least 200, which to me seems very unrealistic. It is very unrealistic. When you start pumping out encounters like 200 per day, even if it is just the same thing over and over again, there's going to be a higher chance of errors because you're trying to go too fast. Now, to me, this seems like, again, it's unrealistic, and I've been in it for a long time. I have seen productivity rates range from 80 to 150. So that to me is reasonable. 150 is for like really redundant clinics that are doing the same things in the outpatient setting. Okay, I'm talking about outpatient, not talking about inpatient. Inpatient is something completely different. But when you're looking at like redundant encounters like immunization clinics and things like that, 150 is reasonable because it is literally the same thing. And a lot of times the documentation is really a lot of the same. So that makes sense to me, right? But to be in a clinic and they're saying, okay, well, you need to make 200. Okay, no, that whoever's setting that standard clearly does not know what it takes to be a medical coder or what we're actually going through. And it could be set up by somebody that's just a supervisor or a manager and say, okay, well, you know, they should be able to get 200 done. I mean, 200 in an 8-hour workday, that's, again, it's an astronomical number where you're sitting there, and at that point, are you even looking at anything? Right? You know what I'm saying? So, like, no, that is unrealistic. And to me, accuracy should take precedence over productivity because when you are doing things at that rate, the amount of errors is going to go up. And then the insurance company is going to be like, no, we're not going to pay you because there's too many errors on this. Because when you start getting audited, you start getting audited. And when you get audited, it's not pretty, especially if you see so many errors, because then you run the risk of fines. And then maybe the insurance company gets so mad that they withhold payment because now they have to look at every single thing. And that is possible because I've heard it happen to different facilities, different providers. So again, no, accuracy takes precedence no matter where you're working. And if you can't meet that ridiculous standard of 200 per day, because it is ridiculous, let's just be honest, we're all adults here. Let's get real, okay? 200 in an 8-hour workday. And that's not even breaks. You know, you should at least have 2 breaks in there. That's a half an hour. That's 7 hours and 30 minutes to do 200. Come on. I'm just saying, you know, just no. Accuracy should take precedence first. That's just my advice. And the last question. How long should you study before taking an exam? So when you are completing your program and you are going to get ready to take your certification exam, I always recommend that the sooner you take it, the better, because all of this information is fresh in your head. Honestly, if I'm giving my solid advice, you should go no more than 2 months. I mean, if you want to take that long, you should do no more than 2 months. 3 months on the outside. I mean, but that's an awful long time to prepare for an exam when you should have been preparing the entire time you've been in school. If you're going through a fast-paced program, then by all means take the 3 months. But if you have been through a program that's 9 or 12 or 18 months, you know, you should have a shorter time, maybe 6 weeks at the most, to be studying for your certification and then preparing yourself mentally and then going to take your certification exam. The longer you wait, the more you're going to forget. And then the more it's going to be like, oh, life got in the way. I've heard that from many viewers. Well, life got in the way. Some never took their certification exam after they completed their program, which is heartbreaking because you worked so hard to get to the program, but they were scared and they didn't want to take the exam. Guys, you have to take the exam sometime. The longer you wait, the more you're going to forget. And there's nothing that you're going to learn new in that time that you're studying before your certification exam. So the only thing that you might get is sharper, a little faster. But again, don't take 6 months or a year to take your certification, because you know you want to get on time with your goals. Again, no more than 3 months. I mean, you should be taking your certification within 6 weeks of completing your program. That's just my advice anyway. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please hit that like button. Share this if it helped you. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see y'all on the next episode. Bye.